First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's call. I'm super excited about this one. Perfecting your pipeline. A business with a pipeline is like a car without fuel. And this is a topic very dear to my heart. But before I get started, maybe I'll do a bit of an intro for those who don't know who I am. My name is David Guest. I run Outcomes Business Group. We're hosting today's presentation. We have 4 keynote speakers going to be talking to us about this idea of perfecting your pipeline. Outcomes Business Group was established about 25 years ago. We specialize in helping people build self-managed teams, and I'll explain the context of why that's so important in relation to perfecting your pipeline. This is the visual I have of people who run their own business. I've been doing this for 25 years, and every time I ask people how's business, they start with "we're busy, we're flat out," and I say that's great. And I say, "Busy doing what?" And they say, "Well, doing the work of the business." You know, sometimes they get better and they go, "We have admin that we have to do as well, so we get the paperwork done so we can get paid." And very often they say, "Our pipeline is not a high priority to us. We don't have a pipeline. We don't do marketing. Most of our work comes from word of mouth or referral." Is anyone in that boat where most of their work comes from word of mouth or referral? Show of hands. There's a couple. There's always a few. Here's what I've found. Sometimes when people say most of my work comes from word of mouth or referral, they do it with pride. But the reality of why they do it is this little puppy. They are stuck in the middle of their business and they are terrified of getting too much business coming in the door because they're already working hard, they're already busy. And so we talk about this concept of, the reason that you're not marketing is you don't have capacity. And they go, "Oh no, we have capacity, but only for a handful of clients." And for me, when we talk about perfecting your pipeline, it's not just about getting a few more clients. It's about making sure that you're getting leads every single day that you're in business, and that you have a quality control mechanism so you're not chasing people around. You actually have a process that actually generates leads, nurtures leads, converts leads. And the only way to really do that is to stop thinking about how busy you are and start thinking about how to scale your business. We should have our pipeline in equal proportion to our operation and to our admin, so it's balanced. And when it's balanced, that means that we can actually start to scale the business. But here's the secret. The secret is to get you out of the operations. Now, getting you out of the operations, and I'm just going to spotlight myself so we can see me. Getting you out of the operations is a key element of growing your business. So there's a guy over in the States by the name of Ryan Deiss, and he made this comment at a seminar that I went to, and I thought it was so good, I'm going to borrow it. And he said, the more valuable you are to your business, the less valuable your business is. And I just want that to sink in, because often for a lot of people on this call, they're the center of the business. What it means is that the business doesn't run if they're not around. And what that does is it might cut the cost of wages. It might mean they have a level of control, but it also means that the value of the business is minimized, because if you try and sell it and remove yourself, there's not much left to sell. Today, I want to talk a bit about how to change that. And I'm going to give you a little bit of context before we get into the presenters, because perfecting your pipeline, in my mind, is one of the areas that most people don't spend enough money. What they do is they spend all their money on either building infrastructure or systems. They spend a lot of money on wages and delivery and service delivery and chasing money, but they don't spend enough money on marketing. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why this happens. So if anyone hasn't read the book, The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, it's a must read. I'm just going to summarize what he talks about in that book. The first thing he suggests is that there's 3 hats that a business owner wears. The first one is being the technician. Now, the technician is the person who does the work of the business. And they usually are straddling between trying to get control and they're trying to straddle between that and cash flow. And so what happens is they're the person that gets really busy to the stage where they've got bloodshot eyes because they're working 24/7. Right? And they're sort of stuck in this space here. And their thing is, they live in a world of chaos. But what they aspire to do is get some level of control. And the way they do that is by just constantly trying to micromanage everything. Their aspiration is to get some cash, because everyone knows cash is king in business. Sometimes we get to upgrade and we move to the next level, which is to become the manager. Now, what does a manager do? In simple terms, a manager's job is to look into the business and make sure that everyone's doing their job and that it is generating cash. So the manager sort of sits in this world here, right, where they focus on a thing called cash flow, but their aspiration is to build a team. Okay, because I can't manage unless I have people to manage. Now, the reason I bring this up is that often when we talk about how to grow a business, people will say, well, you need to make more profit. And you go, well, that's fine. How do I do that? Well, you need to get more sales, but I'm already busy. Well, let's talk about how you leverage. And this is where we move into being a leader. Now, a leader's job is really simple. They have to focus forward, right? Their job is to see what's happening in the future, to read the play, and to make sure that the business is heading in the right direction. They live in this little world here between team and leverage. So I've learned that there's 4 stages that you'll go through in growing a business. The first one is getting a level of control. The second one is focusing on cash flow and making sure that you've got cash flowing in and out. The third one is when you start putting team members on board to do the work of the business so you can remove yourself from the day-to-day operation. And the fourth one is leverage. And this is where you spend most of your time in leadership. Because here's the reality, the technician is capped to how much money they can make. Right? If you want to improve your effective hourly rate in your business, you start to build a team. So as a manager, you can double up and you can make more money. But where the money is really made in a business is this leadership level. Now, we're seeing this right now as the market innovates with things like AI, and people who are adopting things early are making inroads. And we can only do that if we have the space to lead. So as we talk through this model, I'm just going to explain where we're talking today. Our focus today is going to be very much on one area. And so within cash flow, there's 2 pieces to this puzzle, and they overlap. The first one is acquisition, which is getting new clients in the door. And the second one is delivery, which is getting your product or service out. The one we're focusing on today is this one here, acquisition. When we talk about perfecting your pipeline, what we're talking about is this idea of creating an acquisition engine. In other words, a process that would generate leads, prospects, and clients for you on a regular basis. And having this in place will mean that you can start to moderate or manage the kinds of clients you get, the way that you deliver your service so that you can start improving your profitability. Now, we talk about systems in this cash flow level first before we talk about building teams, because I would never employ a team unless I knew exactly what I wanted them to do. So what we're going to be teaching and going through today is how do you build a pipeline? How do you build a system for your pipeline? And how do you make sure that that is running every single day? I'm just going to have to hit the mute all button because someone is loud and maybe dealing with something, which is fine, but we need to continue. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is let's talk about what's going to happen today. Today in Perfect Your Pipeline, there are 4 elements that we're going to talk about. The first one being lead generation. How do we get people to actually know you exist? The second one is nurture. How do we get them to like and trust you? And the last one is conversion. And conversion is going to be about sales. Now, that's 3 steps, right? And I said 4. So there is one 4th step. And the 4th step is this whole funnel lives in an environment. And that environment is your CRM or whatever software you're using for that. So we're going to be talking about each of these 4 elements as we go through today. There's going to be a lot of stuff to go through. I would suggest you take notes as vividly as you can, because each presenter has their own specialty area. And so without further ado, what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce our first presenter. Some of you may know this lady, Ashley Al-Sadi. She has been around for a while. She is the cold calling queen, as she's referred to. And I asked her to come in today because some people think the telephone is dead and buried, and I just don't believe that's true. If you understand how to use the telephone in business, it is still one of the most valid communication channels available, because when you ring someone, if they answer the phone, you are talking to a person one-to-one. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Ashley Al-Sadi to mastering cold calling and the key to a thriving sales pipeline. Over to you, Ash.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, if I can bring that up for you all. So thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. As David said, I've just found it here. Good work. All right. We'll get this up for you all. Fantastic. So yes, I am better known as the cold calling queen because I am that rare and crazy breed that loves doing all the sales grunt work that most avoid or don't have time for. So yes, I'm that crazy lady that loves doing all that grunt work activity. So a bit more about me. The Promo Donna is the Melbourne-based lead generation or cold calling company that I run. And I've actually been running this now for 14 years. So we've done a lot of cold calls in that time frame. I jumped in the deep end back in July of 2011 when I realized that there was a lot of businesses out there that needed an Ash, that needed someone who had this passion and this drive to fill the top of the funnel, to do this grunt work, to create highly qualified sales leads and sales appointments. So fast forward to today, my team and I, we've worked with hundreds of companies all around Australia. So I guess why I'm so passionate in being able to speak with you all this morning and teach you about this top of the funnel activity that's going to bring in new leads and fill your funnel is because we've done this for such a long time. We know what works, and I'm excited that I'm going to be able to impart some great knowledge and tips to you this morning so that you can master cold calling yourself. Before we jump into some of my top techniques and tips though, I really wanted to dive into why I see cold calling and lead generation as such an important or a powerful tool within your business. Because let's face it, in my industry, even in the sales industry in general, there's been a big debate over the years of whether or not cold calling is dead. And I'm here to probably argue this morning that it is more alive than ever. I'm sure there are many of you that are sitting there today that would put your hands up if I asked you, how many of you crave that human to human contact? We get over ringing up someone and getting automated prompts or just receiving emails instead of actual customer service. These are the things that are lacking in this day and age. And so if you or your team can master the telephone and master the art of good conversations over the phone, you'll be leaps and bounds ahead of your competition. Not only that, the other reason I believe the telephone is probably or maybe the missing element for many of you sitting in the audience today is because so many of us create these lead magnets that are predominantly built online. So you're going to, hear some fantastic speakers later today that I love what they do. You've got everything from website development and design right through to CRMs and digital marketing and the like. Sometimes though, the missing element in all of that is creating leads and then not being able to pick up the phone and actually turn them into qualified opportunities. So if you're sitting here in the audience today and you're thinking, oh, yeah, I'm not getting the conversions I want. I'm paying big for digital marketing and creating leads, but I'm not getting anywhere. This is where you may be falling down. So let's dive into it. Let's see how we can master the art of the phone or cold calling to bring about better success and build your pipeline. Now, the first thing that I'm going to give as my top tip is to define your ideal client. And I know for many of you sitting in the audience, you would have already done this. You might have be thinking, well, that's common sense, Ash. As a business owner, as a salesperson, I know who I want to work with. But we sometimes still fall into that trap, especially if our pipeline's a little bit dry, of going, you know what, I'll work with anybody. I'll work with everybody. We don't want to go there, right? Because we know that if we really want to fill our pipeline with highly qualified appointments that ultimately will convert into new business, we've got to make sure that we're not only targeting, but we're speaking with the right people. So I would note down to yourself, first and foremost, the technical aspects of the kind of companies you want to work with. So what kind of industries are they in? Who are the decision makers you want to speak with? What kind of genuine needs and, challenges are they facing? But also don't forget the psychographic. And that's what's on this slide here. They have to have problems that you can fix. We all know in sales, that's the key to conversion. That's the key to getting a qualified opportunity. Do they have a need and can you fix it? You also want to make sure that they actually value what you do. When I'm on the phone with someone for the promo Donna, if they say, Ash, I've done cold calling myself and I know how hard it is, but I also know how much success it can bring about for my business. That's someone who's going to value what I do. So ask those questions. And last but not least, also, they've got to be willing to pay, for your service. Pay premium for your service. And that's all, again, about asking great questions when it comes to their budget and how much value they're seeing in your products or services. But once we've actually defined who we want to work with, it's all about having these conversations. And what I'm going to share with you this morning is the step-by-step process that my team and I use each and every day when they're on the phone. So put up your hand if you're excited about that, because most people I work with, when they've got that call hesitancy, so this can be whether you're cold calling or whether you're following up those qualified leads that you've got from the digital marketing company. If you've got that call hesitancy, it may be coming from the fact that you don't have a step-by-step process as to what to say and when to say it. So make sure to note this down. And at the end, I'm also going to share a little template with you, which will help you to develop a script. So the first step in my sales process is preparation. And it can actually be broken down into two components. The first being our mindset. So if we can't master our sales mindset, the bottom line is you'll never create the results that you want. And I'm going to give you a few tips here on how you can master your mindset for cold calling and sales success. Number one, set some goals and set them as if you've already achieved them. So when I sit down for a call session, I'll write, I generated 5 appointments for XYZ client, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down the page. It's amazing how my brain starts to filter for the results it thinks it already has. So set some goals as if you've achieved them. Second, make sure you're aware of the energy that you're feeding down the phone. What do I mean by this? Well, our energy is contagious. When we're talking with people, and I once trained some people from Vision Australia, and they said, Ash, it's a little bit like when we are sad, it feeds down the lead to our guide dogs. So their guide dogs kind of pick up that energy. And I thought, what a great way of describing what it's like when we're on the phone. It feeds down the line to, the prospect that we're talking to. So get into that peak state, do some dancing, meditate, go for a walk, whatever it is to master your mindset and your energy. And last but not least, make sure you are speaking with authority. Now, what do I mean by this? I'll give you an example. So when I started out in sales, I was quite young. And my boss at the time said, Ash, you sound like a young girl. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? I am a young girl, right? She said, I want you to master or model your voice on someone with authority. And I thought, well, who has authority? News reporters. So I started to model their downward inflections. Ashley El-Sadi, National 9 News. So my voice is not an accident. It has been trained. And if you are someone who has that call hesitancy because you think you don't have that authority, simply practice it and master it or model that behavior that you want to kind of portray to your audience. So that's mastering our mindset. So we've set some goals, mastered our energy, we're sounding authoritative. The second thing that we want to do is we actually want to understand our products and services, and this is the key part of this sentence, in relation to what our prospects want. So many people I work with will say, Ash, this is my pitch. This is how great we are. This is my company. We've been running for 14 years. We've been doing this, doing that. Your prospects don't care. They only care what's in it for them. So what I want you to do is write down a list of all the things that you help your prospects with, and that's what is going to be used in your pitch. So instead of me saying, I'm Ashley from the Promo Donna, we're a great cold calling company, been around for 14 years, I might say, my name is Ashley, I'm from the Promo Donna, we're a cold calling agency that fills your sales pipeline and alleviates you of all that grunt work you don't want to do. We're going to fill your pipeline with highly qualified leads so you don't worry where your next lead's coming from. This is the kind of thing that you need to focus on, what your prospects want. So now that we've prepared ourselves, we know what our prospects want, we've mastered our mindset. The second after those components in my step, the sales process step, is your introduction. So I'm sure everyone here has heard about the elevator pitch, right? And it's still a salesy term that's used today. And we've only really got that 10 to 15 seconds to grab our prospects' attention. And what we're going to do with the introduction is, number one, we're going to come up with a few of them, because this is definitely something we need to master and test out in the market. But we need to make sure it's only a few sentences long, maybe one or two, and it's got to be unique and different. And this is the part of the process where we're going to bring in what I was discussing before, the what's in it for them. The introduction has to be about your prospect as much as it's sparking that interest about your business as well. So write down some introductions, some elevator pitches, a couple to test out in the market, in networking situations. This is something that you'll get after a while, but you've got to test what resonates with your market. Then we move on to the next step. So questions. And I'm going to give you a tip here that if you take nothing away from my presentation but this, I'll be really happy. So note this down. The person who talks the most in a sales situation is losing the sale, right? And so many people I work with go, oh my gosh, I realize why I'm losing all those leads because I'm talking too much. So your job as a salesperson or a business owner is to simply do a great pitch and then ask great questions. You've just got to open up the conversation with some open-ended questions. And that's a point I'll make too. Let's make sure that we're not asking closed questions. You know, is that something you'd be interested in? It's a white rabbit, they'll run. I want you to ask great open-ended questions. You know, tell me a little bit about your sales process. Tell me how you're currently generating leads for your business. You know, open it up and find out what they're doing, because questions will give you the information you need to sell back to them. Now we get to the part, which is one of my favorite parts of the sales process, I have to say, objection handling. Now, people might say, well, you're crazy, Ash. Aren't objections rejection? And no, I believe that objections are simply a request for more information. So if your prospect is giving you an objection, they haven't yet seen the value in what you're delivering. So we want to be able to overcome these objections. And I'm going to give you a few quick tips on how to do that. The first one is put the objection up front. And what do I mean by that? So if you are someone that always gets that objection, I've already got a provider. We've already got someone who does this. You want to put it up front. We did this for a signage company and it totally transformed our results. So when we were originally pitching, we were saying, hi, it's Ashley from XYZ Signage. Do you need some new signage? You know, whatever the spiel initially was. They were saying, we've already got a provider, we don't need you. So we changed it to, hi, this is Ashley from XYZ Signage. We're a signage manufacturer and installer. Now, we understand that you would already have a provider or even some signage in place. However, we understand that a lot of companies review this from time to time or may need some new signage. Would that be the case? You know, tell me a bit about your signage process. And that transformed things. But you can also use techniques like empathy. You know, people want to feel understood. I totally understand your concerns, John. You know, a lot of people, when they come to us, they have this kind of concern. And also just solution selling. You know, they've got objections. If you have a solution, put it forward. And then the last step in my sales process is the close. Now, the great news is if you followed this step by step, inevitably you may come to the close anyway. Prospects will say, well, where do we go to from here? That would be a great outcome. But if they're not at that point yet, you can use some techniques like the assumptive sell or the assumptive close. You know, John, when we're going to go ahead, when we do the workshop together, who's going to be coming along? You know, what people in your business will be in attendance? That's the assumptive, you know, close where we use that assumptive language. The other one is the prepared sell. You know, be prepared with all those buying signals that they're giving you. You know, you might be able to show a package on your screen. Well, look, I'd love to talk you through things right now so we can move ahead. Be prepared to close that sale and never be afraid of asking for it either. Because I find that close hesitancy comes from people who fear buyer's remorse. Oh, aren't I going to come across as that used car salesman? No, if you are genuinely helping someone who has a need and you followed this process that's less pressured, you should have no hesitancy in asking for the close. So if you have enjoyed this step-by-step process that I've run through, and you would love a script template, because we actually have a script template that we just slot this in. We kind of follow the process and slot it into the script. Put your name in the chat because I'd love to send it through and share it with you. And that will enable you to be so much more confident when you're on the phone and using my step-by-step guide. Now, I think I've still got a few minutes left. Is that correct, David? 3 minutes, brilliant. Okay, so I am going to now give you a little icing on the cake. So I've shared with you my sales process. That is that step-by-step guide that you can slot into a script if you would like it. The last thing I wanted to give, again, as I said, as some icing on the cake, is some rapport building techniques. Because when I think about mastering the phone or mastering cold calling at that, we can have a great approach, but it's nothing if we can't connect with our prospects, if we can't build that instantaneous rapport. So I've done a lot of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming training over the years. I'm actually an NLP coach by trade, but I love their rapport building techniques, and that's why I studied it. And one of the key things that they use for rapport building is matching and mirroring. You know, like attracts like. If a prospect feels that they are like you, the connection will be there. So some top tips that I'll give you as some takeaways. Tonality and your pace and your pitch is everything. If I am on the phone and I'm talking to someone who's very slow and very gruff, I'll start to slow myself down. The same goes if someone's talking very, very fast and is very high pitched and fast, I'll start to portray that back to them as well. Because again, if they feel like you are like them, it's like this subconscious understanding. They're like me. And that will go one step further in building that, rapport with it, between them. The other thing that you can do to build rapport is use keywords. If they're repeating words over and over, write it down, regurgitate it back to them. You can use common experiences. We all know that old salesy way that we might walk into a boardroom and go, oh, you barrack for Carlton, so do I. They've got a Carlton, picture on the wall. Common experiences build that rapport. And then we also have predicates, which is a whole other story when it comes to NLP, and I probably don't have enough time to share it with you, but there are ways that we can understand how people buy and learn, and you can build a deeper rapport that way. And that's something that perhaps if you did want to work with me, we can dive into. How can we take our rapport building to the next level? So that is me. So I've talked you through the importance of defining your ideal client, of developing a script and a step-by-step process of how to have a great sales conversation. And last but not least, how to use some tactics to build rapport. If you have been sitting there thinking, you know what, the telephone might be the missing element from my business. You know, maybe it's that you want to call more, or maybe you want your team to, or maybe you'd rather not do it at all and you want to outsource it. You know, we'd love to help. So I've got up there that I am offering a free sales review so that we can uncover how you could be utilizing the phone, what I believe is the most important tool in your business, more. And I think we're going to have the Calendly link put into the chat in a second. Feel free to book yourself in. I'd love to work with you and run that review so that you can take your sales to the next level and fill your pipeline. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you've had some key takeaways.
Amazing, Ashley. Thank you so much. Every time the energy is spot on. I would like to sort of add to this. As you were talking, this came to mind for me. You know, I used to talk about being a welcome guest or an annoying pest. And I think when people are calling on a telephone, if all they're talking about is themselves, they become the annoying pest. And so what you've talked about today is really teaching people how to get into the heads of their prospects, how to solve problems for their prospects so that someone says, where have you been all my life? How come I've been waiting this long to get a call from you? So I think if people start thinking about how do I improve my sales script, cold calling is as valid today as it was ever. If anything, a lot of people will not move to social media. They're getting away from social media. They like humans. So I think you're spot on the money. One of my favorite quotes of all time, Bruce Lee, talked about knowing is not enough, we must do or apply. And I think really when we hear about sales training and sales process, you've got to take this scripting. I noticed a lot of people are going to request your scripting guide. I would also take advantage of Ashley's offer, because to talk to someone and get them to review your sales process will just give you an honest assessment. So worst case scenario, she'll tell you that you're doing a great job. Best case scenario, she gives you the pointers on how to improve your sales conversion. So by all means, I think you should take advantage of that if possible. I'd like to keep moving to our next presenter. What I'd like to do is I'd like to talk a bit about what happens once you do get someone into that pipeline for the first time. There's a thing called nurture. And for a lot of business owners, they don't consider nurture to be important because they say, if you can't convert a lead, then it's not going anywhere, it's dead. So you chase them until they buy or die. That's called nurture. But if you don't do it through an automated process, if you don't have a way of building a relationship once someone makes their first contact with you, and I guarantee you, anyone who downloads or borrows Ashley's scripting guide, that's going to give you a representation of her company. So the next presenter is a really key element, which is in this nurture space. So once someone says, I am interested, everything that happens from that moment is an experience. And that experience can actually get people to like you more and trust you more, or it can actually get them to repel and say, hang on, this is sus, this is dodgy, I'm not sure what's going on. So our next presenter, I've got her picture, but there she is in the flesh. Kate Bradshaw, who I've known for many years now, is actually someone who works on web design and web development. And the thing I love about Kate is she is artistic and she has a creative flair and she can see things on websites that I can't see. So she talks about from first look to last click, and this is mastering design for sales success. So how do we improve our conversion? One way is to cold call and get some leads into our funnel. The second way is to make sure what people see next represents what we want it to in terms of their messaging. So I'd like to hand over to Kate so we can talk about from first look to last click. Over to you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, David. I'm really embarrassed to be speaking straight after Ashley because I don't have that newsreader voice. So sorry about my, squeakiness, etc. But I get excited about looking at things, and I love to see that design is everywhere. It's all around us, and it's an exciting part of our lives. And now that I've talked about it, you're going to look at things differently, and you're going to go, why is that like that? Why does that look like that? Why did they do that on that sign? And I'd like to just take you through some of the elements that make up what is design and how it affects your pipeline. Because I think it's actually quite hard to get people into the pipeline, don't you? It's a lot of work, isn't it? It's expensive sometimes. So we've got to look after them once they get there. So let me share my screen. Share, yes. A note, yes. that one. Okay, how's that? Has everyone got that one? Got my slides? Okay, great. So just a little bit about me. Our company is called Web Today. We're a web design and digital agency. We've been doing this since 2014, so over 10 years now. I'm also the Wix ambassador. Wix is a website platform, if you don't know it. And hi to all my clients who are here today, you definitely know it. But what I'm going to talk to you about today doesn't have to be about Wix. It's platform independent. So if you're not on Wix, it doesn't matter. I'm also trained as a psychologist, so I'm sort of the website psychologist, I'm the design psychologist, and in my talk today, I'm going to talk about how that influences how we look at things. Okay, right, so let's go. First look to last click. It's all about design, even though you don't know it. So I'm going to talk actually about 4 things. Tying things together, tying in, trust, building trust, the tone of your message, and my personal favorite bugbear, typography. So when we're talking about these things, they're all to do with our pipeline. So what does your pipeline look like? Does it look like, you probably start, perhaps you send someone an email, or they see a social media ad, perhaps it's traditional media that you're using, a sales call, Ashley does that, or they see a post that you put on social media, they come through a chatbot, media announcement, etc., etc., etc. So it could be anything. And what happens is at the end of that very complicated pipeline, they end up at your website. So that's all great, but that's quite a lot to go through. It's quite expensive to get them there. So what do we want at the end? We want a conversion. And if you do all that stuff and it doesn't get to a conversion, that is incredibly disappointing. So I want to give you some tips today that help get you that conversion. And the first one is actually really simple, and I call it tying in. So what is tying in? Well, people get to know about you through these methods, and we call that a brand. Well, what actually is a brand? Brand is a series of standards that you set for how you communicate with people. So this is ours. We've got some colors, we've got some fonts, and we use those colors consistently when we talk to people. And what does that do? Well, that starts to give them a consistent message about who we are. And that's important. The thing is, it's very easy to get sidetracked these days, sidetracked with all these pretty lovely things here, because there's always, you know, the shiny thing and the new thing and a prettier one and a purpler one. And when we're given all these lovely templates to use, we get tempted, and we get tempted away from our brand. And what I'd like to do is encourage you to stick with the knitting and stick with your brand and set those standards so that you've always got that to come back to. Because when people see an ad, and here's an ad for SEMrush, their an SEO and digital tool, you want to click that ad and make sure that you have a congruent next step. And you can see here that the ad is a certain set of brand colors, and so is the website. So easy, right? So that's just a little tip that so many people overlook. And you should be looking at this in your social media, in your advertising, your paid digital, and all the things that you can do. The way you take photographs, what are the standards that you're setting for yourself as a business? What is your brand? And if you haven't had an opportunity to write that down, then it's a great opportunity, great time to do that. Here's a brand where we have created some congruence. This is a company called Dentspot, and they repair cars, and this is their website. Going down their homepage, you can see some brand elements. They've got some shapes, they've got some dots, they use this red color as their main color, and then this is their social media, congruent, right? And here's a presentation. And we'll come back to these guys in a little while because they're a good example. So what I want to, when I say tie things together, that just means brand congruence. Don't get distracted with some pretty templates. Stick to your brand and keep with it. Okay, that's number one. So number two is trust. And if you saw a couple of presentations ago, I did a big talk about this trust pyramid. Now, a trust pyramid is how people come to a buying decision. They really need to trust you because they're going to give you their money, right? So they have to trust you. The first level is competence. Then we have familiarity, person, proof, and the D. And the D is delivery. So let me talk about those individually. That first one is competence. You have to look like you know what you're doing. And that could be simple, but if you're not a designer, sometimes it looks like this. And there's so many things wrong with this little brochure that these people did. And it's altogether terrible. It makes them look, even though they might be the best, whoever they are, photographers ever, they look like they're terrible designers. So I'm not going to trust that person with my photography. And it's not an Australian example, I know, but it shows everything that you shouldn't do. So there you go. We actually have a design guide for everyone. I give it to my staff when I onboard new staff. And it says things like, you are not allowed to use outlines, because that is the fast track to disaster. So if you would actually like that design guide, you're welcome to have it. Just grab that, this little, what do you call these, QR codes, and grab that design guide. It's just a few helpful pointers about what to do and what not to do. Okay, the next level of our trust pyramid is familiarity. And let's come back to our brand example, DentSpot. And what you can see here is that you have this experience on your social media, you have this experience when you get a proposal, and then you come to the website. And all the time, that brand, that little DentSpot spot is becoming more and more familiar to you. That's why we spend so much on TV advertising. You don't just see a McDonald's ad once. You see it tens, dozens, hundreds of times. And that's why, because they're trying to hammer that brand into your brain. It becomes familiar. And one of the really interesting psychology experiments was who becomes your best friend. And the people who become our best friends are the ones that we see most often, the ones that we have the closest proximity and familiarity with. And once you see them over and over and over again, you want them to be your friends. You think the people that you see more often, you think are more attractive, more beautiful. And so this frequency has a real effect on our brains. So don't forget that when you think, oh, is this ad working? Just keep at it, keep putting it out there, keep putting the brand out there. Person is really important as well. And by person, I actually mean face. Faces are special. They have a very special part in our brains. And we actually see faces everywhere. And it's not because there's actually a face there in this tree or in this cloud. It's because a big part of our brain is dedicated towards finding faces. And this is an innate thing that we have, that we're grown with, we're born with. And so we really, really want to see faces, right? So how do we see faces? Well, if we look at this again, I know straight away that your eyes are going to be captured by two particular places, here and here. And that's because we are looking for faces all the time. And that's why you see faces in the pattern on the tiles, the clouds, the trees, everywhere. You will find a face. If you're looking for, even if you're not looking for a face, you'll find a face. So what does this mean for us as funnel marketers? Well, it means put a face in the ads, put a face on the website. I don't care if you're making industrial widgets. It doesn't matter. Put a happy, friendly face on the website. It is so important. I can't even tell you how important that is. If you go to our website, Web Today, you will see my face. Now, I don't love having it out there, but it's so important for people to see a face and understand that this is a human connection. And that's what we're looking for, human connection. And that's why you see faces in the clouds and everywhere else. Okay, now, proof is really important. You probably know what proof is. Proof is this, it's reviews. And so if you're not marketing your reviews, if you're not capitalizing on your reviews, then you're missing a big opportunity to consolidate people's trust in the funnel, in the pipeline. So make sure that you're getting reviews, keeping reviews, publicizing reviews, making case studies, and that you've got that proof right out there. And the last one in the trust pyramid is delivery. And it's a bit different to proof, right? Because proof, well, it says that you delivered something to someone, but delivery is a little bit different. Delivery is, what did you do yesterday? What did you give my friend? So if you have someone who is known to have, if a prospect comes to you and they have a neighbor who got your thing or had your service, then that trumps everything else because it's a known quantity. So the fact that you delivered recently to someone they know is better than anything else. So there you go, that's my trust pyramid. So if you can, nail everything from competence, familiarity, add a face in there, add some social proof, and you have people who've delivered recently. And of course, these people become your champions for your business. They want to know, they want to tell people about what you've done. That is amazing. And that really engenders trust. Okay, let's talk about something a little less visual. It's tone. So tone is how the other things besides the visuals in your brand. And it might be things like how you speak, how you answer the phone, how you conduct a sales call, like Ashley said. But it's also how you write about things as well. And it can help you to make an impressive first impression or a different first impression. It can help you to connect with your audience. If your audience is young people, you might start with, hey. But if it's 50 and over, you may not do that. You might say good morning. And this really matters, and it becomes an important part of your brand. It helps you to build these emotional connections, and it encourages that person to engage with you, because remember what Ashley said, likes like. The person will connect with you if you mirror them and if you are part of their in-group. So, who does a really, really great tone of voice? It's Virgin. You can probably remember some of the ads that you've seen for Virgin, perhaps the airlines, and they always start with, hey, and it's a young voice, it's upbeat, and they have a very particular way of speaking and writing. And this could be a really important part of your brand as well. So don't forget your tone of voice. And finally, and the most fun of all, is typography. Now, why do I include this? Sure, it's a small part of everything, but oh my goodness, it is an important part. I can tell the people who have made their brand themselves or done their website themselves or had a professional helper like an agency or a designer do it. How do I tell? Well, I can tell because of the typography. If you've used Arial for your headings and your font and your paragraph text, that's the first font there is. That's like #1 pick on both Apple and PC and on Word. So that's you've just picked straight out of the box Arial. So what can you do to do that? Well, it's the thing, it separates pro from meh. So the way you learn typography is you start noticing it. So start thinking about typography. Why does that sign look so, why does that heading look so good? Why does that match so nicely? Look how they've broken that word up here. Look how this E is turned around to match the B. Look at those things and just start noticing. So the interesting thing is, and it's trendy as well, like people, the typography has trends. You can probably look at something and go, oh, I know that was, that poster was designed in the 1960s. Why? Well, it's the typography. Or the 80s. Why? It's the typography. So there's a couple of things that you need to know. Even big brands get this wrong, by the way. Allow enough space is one of the big mistakes that people make. So let's have a look. Okay, now here's a big brand, Chanel. What does that say? What does that say? Are you reading cow? I'm reading cow. I love cow. I think it's meant to be cocoa, but it just goes to show mistakes can be made, even if you're one of the biggest, most famous brands in the world. Hands up, who read cow? Me too. Okay. So, okay. Here's another one. What are we buying here? I'm not really sure, are you? Okay, so typography matters. Don't take it for granted that something that you've used, if you said pies, it would be a whole different matter. And that font might work perfectly. Sometimes fonts don't work for certain words. And I don't want to be eating fart. Okay, and what about this one? Classic. I think this was actually it. No, not quite Bunnings. Classic. I'm not even going to go there. But as you can see, remember what I said about leaving enough space? That in typography terms, that's called kerning. Don't kern too tight, people. Don't kern too tight. I've also seen Clean to Eastwood be made a terrible mess of in typography. So make sure that your typography gets a second look. So that's my talk for today. It's just a few tips, tying in trust, tone, and typography. There are things for you to think about. And we get to this point in the presentation where I want to give you something. And David knows I'm terrible at this. I'm not a big product person because I'm very relational. I just like to have a chat. So if you would just like to have a chat to me, and it's not part of some bigger product or anything, I'm very happy to do that. I can give you a pipeline assessment. It's a website review. I'll have a look at your ads, have a look at your social media, and just make some recommendations. It's just a chat between you and me. If you would like to do that, we've got a little form for you to fill in so you can scan, and I think that Aira is going to pop it in the chat as well. So come talk to me, and we can see how you can improve. Or if you're doing a great job, I'll tell you that as well. So there you go.
You've done a great job.
Design matters.
I think it does, and I'm super excited that you sort of toned it all down and just said, look, design matters. All I'm hearing is that if someone sets up their design properly, they don't have to sell as hard. They don't have to worry about losing conversion because people get freaked out by things. I do believe everyone on this call who has a web page or any web materials that they're using as part of their pipeline, Kate's just offered to review it as an independent. And as you can see, she saw things, I'm not sure I want her to be looking at my website, that you can't see and I can't see. But the point of this is simple, right? Your website is your silent salesperson. And when we talk about nurture, and that's really what this conversation's been about today, is this whole idea of where do we take people after they show interest? And if we do anything to get them to reject us because they go, well, look at those colors, or they don't even know why, they just feel incongruence, you're losing sales. That's costing you money. So I'm going to highly recommend that you do book a time with Kate. She is also a lovely person, by the way, in case you haven't noticed. But if she just gives you a one pointer on improving your website and you do that yourself, you will improve conversion. And it's one of those things that you do once and it works for a long time. So it's a leveraged activity. So I am going to encourage people to do that. The link is in the chat. I might get Ira just to pop that in again in case anyone wasn't on or didn't see it. Brilliant. While I introduce our next speaker. So what we've done so far, we've done a lot. We've talked through lead generation using telephone. We've talked about lead nurture and what does your prospect expect when they start engaging with your materials? And Kate's done a great job of demonstrating that. The next part is where the rubber hits the road and people get super excited. They talk about conversion. They say, we need to convert more. We need to sell more. And often the issue is not conversion. Often the issue is that we're losing people through the nurture process, or we don't have enough leads coming in. But I think, when we talk about conversion, there is an art to it. It's something you can learn. It's something that is super important. And I'd like to introduce our next speaker who specializes in doing this. So Ben Lai, who I've known for a few years now, he talks about sales conversion and how to convert more sales in 3 steps. But the key to Ben being so good at teaching this is he's not a salesperson, right? He's an introvert, and you won't know this when you meet him. I'm sort of probably busting his bubble. But what I do find with Ben is that he's amazing at telling stories. He's amazing at showing you how you put simple sales process in place without having to be salesy. So Ben, I'd like to hand over to you.
Thank you so much, David. How good are the presentations so far? I'm very honored to be able to speak beside Ashley, Kate, and Craig. Kate, I think you undersell yourself. You are amazing. You need to really own that and present that next time you present. So today I'm going to share with you how to convert more sales in 3 steps. Now, the thing about this is I am not going to hold back, right? I am literally going to give you gold. If you follow these 3 steps, you will increase your sales. Now, why am I doing this? The reason is because I want you to start seeing results for free. And I want you to think in your mind, gee whiz, if Ben is willing to do all of this for me for free, imagine what it would be like working with him. So that's, I hope you've got your pens and paper ready or your notepad on the computer ready, because I'm going to give you some really easy to implement techniques that will immediately increase your sales. Just a quick photo of my family. This was taken about 5 years ago. They're a lot bigger now. It's amazing how much 5 years difference can make. But as David was saying, I did want to share a little bit about my story. I'm actually a natural introvert. And to top it off, I'm actually a people pleaser as well. To put into perspective, I literally lose sleep when I think I've upset someone, right? This photo was captured just kind of at a networking function. And I think it shows me in my natural personality and environment. I'm not the type of person that likes to be center of stage unless I'm teaching stuff. Go figure, how does that work in the brain? But the reason I'm sharing this with you is because a lot of us have this false impression that in order to be effective in sales, we need to be extroverted. We need to have the gift of the gab, right? Well, I'm here to share with you that I was not like that at the beginning. And if I was able to develop a successful sales career and carry that into my business selling sales training, so can you. And by the way, when I first started this business, I was going out on my own, selling my services as a sales trainer. And I'll tell you that my sales pitch was one of the worst ever, which was totally ironic. Because the fact of the matter was I was no longer selling someone else's product, I was selling me. And that is the real challenge that we face as small business owners. Like when you're selling yourself, all of a sudden your self-esteem and your self-image comes to light. And if you don't have a solid foundation and self-belief in that, you will not be putting your best foot forward and you will not be earning what you really deserve. So what I'm going to cover today is that we need to first cover a few sales mindsets to make sure that we're covering our bases and unlocking any mental and subconscious barriers to you implementing the next steps. The next one is to be quick as a flash, to sell like a doctor, and to follow up like a friend. So these will all make sense very soon. All right, let's start off with the sales mindset and set some foundations. Now, why is it that we all hate selling initially. And I'm glad Ashley didn't feel this when she first started off. But we've all received the annoying sales calls, the pushy person that just won't take no for an answer. Obviously not from Ashley's agency, from someone else. You feel dirty afterwards. Like seriously, I received a couple of months ago this sales call, and they were using all of these sales techniques under the sun on a sales trainer, right? And I could tell that it was just a technique, and they just so pushy. I felt like I needed therapy afterwards, seriously. So when we go through this experience, it colors our perception about sales. And so how do we rectify this? How do we go about doing the thing that we feel victimized by? And so, a lot of us, when we have the picture of what a salesperson is, this is incidentally what comes up in one of the results on Google Images, right? And I imagine this guy saying, "Hey, you there, you look like a nice guy. Come here, you're looking to buy a car, I make a good deal for you," right? That's the kind of image that we have. But here's the thing, they're pushy, they're manipulative, they're greedy. But here's what I'd like to propose. That rather than being these things, we be assertive, we be influential, and we are looking for the win-win. Now, how much better does that feel if you're in the sales process and you are assertive and you're influential and you're looking for a win-win? And I honestly believe this, that we have a moral case to sell as much as we possibly can. And here's how it works. Each and every one of you in this room, solve a certain kind of problem for a certain kind of person. Now, to illustrate this point, you might be familiar with the story of the Good Samaritan. So what happened was a guy gets beaten up and robbed, left for dead. Two religious people walk by, and they see the guy. They could help, they should help, but they don't. They're passive, right? So what a tragedy. But the Good Samaritan, on the other hand, he's proactive. He goes up to the person, bandages up the wounds, and then has mercy on this guy. So in the same way, if you have the ability to solve people's problems and for a certain kind of person, do you not then have a responsibility to find as many people with that problem as possible and then help them out? Now, the key here is that we're running our businesses for profit. We're not doing it for charity, but that's a different story. That's a different point that we need to address later on. But from that perspective, I want you to feel, in a way, that you have an obligation to help as many people as you can. All right, now over to the meaty stuff. Now, tip number one is to be as quick as a flash. Now, Craig's going to cover this in a little bit more detail, but I just wanted to illustrate this very quickly. One time I was comparing car insurance. This was 8 p.m. at night. So I submitted my details on a website asking for a quote. And literally 2 minutes later, I received a phone call from this company. This was back in the days before robocalls. So I actually answered the call. And oh, to my surprise, it's the insurance company with the quote ready for me. Now, why is it that these insurance companies are so on the ball that 2 minutes from inquiry to phone call? Reason is that they are paying $50 per click to their website. $50. They're treating every single inquiry as gold. Now, $50 is per click, not per lead, right? So they're probably paying hundreds of dollars per lead. So they wanted to treat these like gold. So you need to do the same thing for your leads. Every hour that passes by after they've submitted the initial inquiry exponentially decreases your probability of winning the sale. So you have to be very, very precious. Like you build a wonderful website that Kate designed for you. The lead comes through, contact them as soon as you can. It's a little bit different if it's a warm lead. Let's just say you've got a referral from someone, different story. But for cold leads or for people that have just gotten to know you, you want to show that you are ultra responsive. And the reason is this: people will naturally associate your responsiveness in the sales process with your actual service itself, right? So this is a very, very simple thing to implement, but it will significantly increase your conversion rates. Now over to the sales process itself. Now here's my advice. Sell like a doctor. In other words, diagnose before prescribing. Now I came from a nursing background. That was my first career before I went into selling. So I love the medical analogies. I've got them all over my training. So let me ask you this. How would you feel if you walked into the doctor's office with a health problem and then you tell them, oh, doctor, I've got this headache and it just won't go away. And then the doctor opens his drawer, pulls out a couple of Panadols and then hands it to you and says, take these, you'll feel better soon. Right? That would be medical malpractice. This person would be banned from practicing medicine because he did no diagnosis. He did not find out where the headache came from, what could be causing it. You don't know if it's a brain tumor or if it's just that you're dehydrated or just haven't had enough sleep. He doesn't know. So, but in the same way, a lot of people practice what we call sales malpractice. They go around selling their services to every man and their dog. Right? Marketing companies are especially guilty of this. A Google AdWords company will think that everybody needs to do Google AdWords. A social media company thinks everybody needs to do social media. Right? That's the wrong approach. We need to ask questions, find out what industry are you in? What sort of service do you provide? Who is your ideal client? Where are they hanging out? You're going to ask diagnostic questions to figure out, hey, are we a good fit? Am I the right provider for you? And are you the kind of client that I can provide value to? Right? It's a two-way street. You're trying to assess them in the same way they're trying to assess you. Now, mind you, this mindset is going to really reframe the whole conversation. It's suddenly you're positioning yourself from a position of strength. You're not desperate for their business. You're willing to say no to them, right? What a powerful position to be in, where you look at their situation, you say, look, I'm probably not the right person for you, but I can recommend someone that is. So usually when I'm talking to new businesses, and they're saying, oh, I want help with sales. I ask them the questions and I say, oh, you have 0 leads? You got to talk to Ashley. Or you got to talk to Kate about doing some getting some leads through your website, right? And then once you've got that going, hey, let's connect again. Let's chat again later on. We got to put our desperation aside and be willing to diagnose before we prescribe. Now, here's the thing. I say sell like a doctor, but here's the thing that even medical professionals don't do. And us introverts, we're really great with the analytical side of the sale, but we're not that great about asking what we call motivational questions. And even the extroverts struggle with this. Motivational questions is an absolute game changer when it comes to sales. What you want to do is you want to find out in their heart of hearts, why are they what is their problem and why are they trying to solve it, right? So here are 2 questions. You can use these virtually verbatim and it will help you to uncover the person's motivation. And motivation equals emotions and emotions equals action. You want someone to buy, you got to move their heart, not just their mind, right? So here's a question I always ask every person that submits an inquiry through my website. What prompted you to get in touch? And people are always pleasantly surprised to hear that. And you know what, usually the way that the conversation happens is 15 minutes, we're talking about them. I ask, what prompted you to get in touch? Oh yeah, looking to improve my sales. I'll ask lots of diagnostic questions, ask more motivational questions. I ask, what would it mean for you if we were to increase your sales? After 15 minutes, they're really excited. They feel understood and empathized with. And they say, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself, Ben. I love doing this. I love guilting people into asking me about me. Be so good at listening that people feel guilty and they feel obligated to listen to you. All right, so that's selling like a doctor. The next thing that we need to do is to follow up like a friend. We need to help our clients to act. We are living in the most distracted time in all of history. bar none. We've got distractions left, right, and center. For us as business owners, we have shiny object syndrome. What? You're not on Facebook? You gotta be on Facebook. What? You don't have a newsletter? You've gotta have a newsletter. What? You're not on LinkedIn? You're not on that platform? You're not on that platform? Distractions galore, right? Sometimes even when people want to buy from you, they get distracted from buying from you. So how do we go about following up without being like a stalker? None of us wants to be that annoying voice that says, hey, just checking in, hey, just following up, and adding no value whatsoever, right? So what I want you to do is to imagine this, that if you had a friend who told you about a problem that needs solved, you may not necessarily have the solution to their problem, but you follow up 1 week later and you say, hey, John, how are you going with that struggle of yours? Would you not appreciate, would they not appreciate a follow-up like that? You're following up like a friend. You're showing concern, but you're also being professional about it. Funny story. I once had a client who was the head of a big manufacturing company, and he was telling me about what this other salesperson that was trying to sell to them. And he said this word for word. He said, boy, this girl, she is so persistent. I suppose we should buy something from her. Imagine that. She was so persistent that he felt almost obligated to buy from her. Now, just as a disclaimer there, you can't just be persistent. You got to be client-centric. You got to show that you are acting in their best interests and not just selfish interests, right? You got to, the reason for your follow-up is that you care about the client, not just about yourself. So here is the framework. This is exactly what I teach my paying clients. I'm giving this to you for free today. Number 1 is the decision call. Number 2 is the spear message. Number 3 is the goodbye message. So for the decision call, so this is at the end of the sales process after you've asked for their business. You can use this framework at any other stage of follow-up, and it will work exactly the same, and it will work its magic. So what you do is you book the decision call. Do not say, come back to me when you're ready, because guess what? They're going to get distracted. They're not going to get back to you. That's the sad reality. Book the decision call. And if they don't turn up for the call, you send them the spear message. You ask them, hey, I missed you at our call. Are you still interested in improving your sales? If they still don't respond after a few more days, then you send them the goodbye message, which sounds like you've gone in a different direction. I wish you all the best. Now, here's the funny part. The ones who wanted to buy from you, when they receive this message, they will respond in under 5 minutes, right? This is like magic, because they will immediately reply and they'll say, I'm sorry, I just got caught up. I was in hospital or whatever. Yes, I'm still interested, right? So follow this formula. It's professional, it's caring, and you will get results. Now, on the flip side, if they've decided not to go ahead with you, they will cancel the decision call, or at this point, they just won't respond anymore. And you do not follow up anymore, right? We have our integrity. We don't want to come across as desperate, so we don't follow up after the goodbye message. Now, I just wanted to share a couple of case studies of clients of mine. Now, so Kate was an interior designer. She had been in the business for over 19 years. She approached me to help with her pricing strategy as well as her sales strategy. Long story short, I worked with her on her mindsets and her vision for the business. I worked with her on her sales strategy and the way that she positioned her products. And then I helped her with the sales skills themselves. Now, she's a very gentle personality, introverted like me. And so the techniques that I taught her were completely authentic to her and congruent with her personal values. So over 12 months, I've got the recorded testimonial. She was able to double her revenue in 12 months. Now, this is not an isolated story. This is Ryan's story. Ryan is a roof restoration tradie. In fact, I just hired him back to fix my roof. So, so the relationship's still going. But Ryan's story was very similar to Kate's. He was undercharging for what he was doing. He was really being pressured by all of the other tradies who were cutting corners on and using cheap materials. And so I really had to help him with his pricing, to increase his pricing up to what the market value was for what he does. But in addition to that, to have the sales framework so that he can communicate his value, and so that people understand, whoa, you're charging this amount and the competitor is charging this amount, but I think it's worth paying the extra amount for you. So the net result for him was very similar to Kate's. We were able to double his revenue within a 12-month period. I'll just share one more case study. Simon, what a great guy. Such a bubbly, he's not an introvert, he's a total extrovert. He's a wedding and a corporate MC. So he was transitioning from being an award-winning wedding MC. He wanted to go into corporate, and he was not charging enough for what he was doing. So I caught up with him 12 months later, and he said to me over a coffee, Ben, I just wanted to thank you because I just got the biggest tax bill of my entire life. And I thought, what an interesting way to tell me that he's increased his revenue so much that his tax bill proportionately increased. He achieved a 3x increase in his revenue in 12 months. So I'm very proud of these case studies. And these are not even all of them. I've got a handful of others where I've been able to help them to multiply their revenue. Now, here's the question for you. Can I help you to 2x or 3x your revenue? Actually, my honest answer is I don't know, right? Because there are certain things that need to line up before we can achieve those kinds of results. I do not achieve this with everybody, right? But for certain kinds of businesses, with certain circumstances, it is certainly achievable. So what I'd like you to do is to book a 15-minute call with me. Scan the code, and Aya is going to put the link in the chat box. Let's just have a quick chat, 15 minutes. Then what I'll do is I'll invite you along to come to one of my group sessions so you can get to know some of my other clients and get some more free value. And at the end of it, you can decide for yourself whether you want to work with me or not. No obligations, right? I've been in sales long enough that I've had my fair share of rejections. I do not take it personally anymore, right? So feel free to come along, just enjoy the value, no obligations. I would love to just have the opportunity to explore if we can really transform your business. So in summary, be as quick as a flash, sell like a doctor, follow up like a friend. Thank you.
Awesome. Ben, another amazing presentation. I will encourage people, if you have not had someone go through your sales scripting with you, you know, a lot of people are scared of sales, and Ben just really brings it down to some basic fundamentals. And I think it is important that you have someone have this conversation. Now, I feel like at this point in time, people are probably feeling like there's a lot to do, right? We've gone through a lot of information. I do want to talk about this last presenter, which is something very dear to my heart. And we've talked about the 3 elements of the funnel, but we haven't talked about where the funnel lives. And one of the biggest issues that I've seen for most people in business is they don't have an automated process, which means it's just another thing that I have to do. It's just another thing that I have to do. And the reason I can't do another thing is I'm stuck here. I don't want more pipeline. I'm too busy. And if you create a pipeline, can't someone else just do it for me? And the truth of the matter is every expert here will help you improve your productivity of your pipeline. The thing that's missing is you. And what we need to do to get you involved is to get you out of the operations of the business as much as possible and becoming a business builder rather than just a technician within the business. Now, to do this requires you to have time. For some people, they have the time right now. And if you do, I encourage you to connect with every single presenter for their free 15-minute chat and ask them the very raw question, will you improve my profitability? Yes or no? Show me how. Learn to see whether these tips will work for you directly or whether you want to engage, right? This takes time, which sort of leads me to a couple of quick things before we go to our next presenter. The first one is this quote. from Jim Rohn. If anyone doesn't know who this guy is, he was a famous business philosopher when I was young. And I loved everything he did, especially his quirky voice. But the one thing that stuck with me forever was never wish life were easier, wish you were better. Don't hope that these people will just solve your problem. Become good at engaging contractors, understanding what they offer and understanding whether they can help you build your business or not. Become a savvy business owner. Now, the thing that will stop you, and I'll go back to the drawing I drew earlier in the day, is this part here. If you're stuck trying to build acquisition, but you do not have a team, you're just going to get burdened. And the reason I'm mentioning this is we're doing something we've never done before. In our business, we have clients that we work with, and our biggest aim is to help them build self-managed teams. In 2 weeks' time, we're running a client-only event, which means only people who are in our membership can access this. But we're opening the door to anyone who's interested to pay to come along, $97. Now, we're going to be talking about the 90-day high retention hiring plan. We're going to show you how to recruit. We're going to write your ads for you for Seek. We're going to create your employee acquisition funnel, similar to what we talked about today, and show you how to pick the right candidates. If you're interested in doing that, you can click on that QR code, or you can just jump on the link that Iris put into the chat box. I don't want to sort of stop there. I do want to talk about this idea of creating your funnel. Craig Edwards, who I've known for quite some time, is a guru. We call him a guru because he wears a hat that says Beam Automation, and he deals with things like CRM. He deals with things like AI and all of that technical stuff that bothers people. Now, I'm going to suggest something to you. I've been using CRMs from the day I started selling, and they used to be very manual and very sort of paper-based even. But if you're not following your prospects and using automation to keep in touch with them, you are leaving money on the table. So the most important part of today's presentation is to wrap up your lead generation, your lead nurture, and your conversion into a structured approach. Ben talked about urgency and getting in touch with people immediately. The expectation is that happens. It doesn't have to be a person. It does have to be something intelligent. Craig's going to be talking about how you put this into a system, the things to look out for, and I'm sure you're going to get some great value. So let's get on to Craig so he can show us some of the tech stuff, and let's see if we can get this into a system for you. So over to you, Craig.
Awesome. Thanks, David. And good morning, everyone. Thanks for everyone for sticking around. I've been the last act, but I'll dive straight in. So today we're talking about how we can actually fuel our pipeline using the technologies, as David said, through CRMs and automation. Just a quick background about me. I've been doing this a long time, for over 27 years, having run various marketing and brand agencies, but now really into the MarTech side of how do we fuel our marketing and sales on an ongoing system and making sure that we're building a really valuable customer journey at the same time. So I guess before I dive into the technical side of things, I guess at the end of the day, we need to understand that marketing sales do need to work hand in hand to each other. And that's whether it's marketing activities, sales activities, or even just marketing teams and sales teams. They need to connect. And the way we can do that is by building out a journey, because we need to make sure that anything we do from a sales perspective, but also whatever we do from a marketing perspective, is a journey. And it's also a journey for the customer. And we need to lead them somewhere. So talking about sales funnels and pipelines, you might have seen this graph before. So we're taking them through any activities that we're doing. We take them through those various stages. So whether it's awareness, interest, consideration, ultimately we want to get them to the buy stage. So, and you've probably heard those acronyms of MQLs, marketing qualified leads, and SQLs, which is sales qualified leads. But essentially at the end of the day, it's literally just putting all of your activities through that funnel and then feeding them then down to the bottom end, because all of that is going to obviously lead to generating sales for the business. But how do we do that? We've got all this marketing activity that we're doing. We've got all this sales activity that we're doing, but also the customer's in the middle. So all of that's got to come together in one centralized platform or system, so you can track, you can capture, and even activate all of those activities for you. And by doing that is obviously by using a CRM. So that way you can access all of this activity, tracking, data, reporting, all of it in one place as your single source of truth, and access it in just one single click. So it's a real must-have. Outside of your accounting software, a CRM is essentially a must-have for any type of business. So, I mean, there's a plethora of CRMs that are out there, and they all do, little nuanced things to each other. But the end of the day, it's always key to have one. So, I mean, some CRMs start as little as $30 a month. And we're at an age now where CRMs just do more than capturing names and in emails, which I'll explain a bit more. I mean, you might have seen this comment from the movie The Castle, but you know, what is the best CRM? I get asked a lot, but it's really about how, you know, what you wanted to do for your business is how you choose the best CRM. So, because they all do different things. Salesforce is very sales focused. HubSpot is very marketing and sales focused. Pipedrive is about lead generation. So, happy to chat further about what those CRMs can, you know, aid your particular business. But essentially, they're there to do three main things. You know, we've talked about, you know, a good CRM. We're past the age now of just capturing name and numbers anymore. It can do so much more. It can do things by removing manual processes, which I'll explain in a bit more detail. We get to store, capture, track, and report all of our activities. This is gold. Like, you have got such a bird's eye view of everything that goes on with your marketing and sales activity. Plus, we get to track and profile what happens with our customer and our customer journeys. And what that sort of looks like is, well, in terms of manual processes, and I'm keen to learn from people in the audience, you know, do away with spreadsheets. We don't need spreadsheets anymore. And I guess put your hand up if you're still using spreadsheets, because, you know, we've got to get you off those. You don't need to be having manual entry data or even writing on scraps of bits of paper. You know, oh, I met a guy at a networking event and I can't remember his name, but I wrote it down and I've lost that piece of paper. Those days are gone. You can literally scan someone's business card using your phone, or it automatically populates into your CRM, and any email activities, conversations, even phone calls. So if you're doing cold calling with Ashley, all of that, the transcripts, AI can even transcribe everything. All of that feeds into your CRM. So do away with manual processes. And I guess the next part is it tracks all of your sales, all of your marketing. So all those outbound cold calling, even interactions with Ben, and even lead capture with Kate as well. Or if you're doing social media, all of that is feeding in. So you're not having to look at reports from different platforms, from, oh, MailChimp, yeah, I think I've got an open rate, but again, you're trying to juggle too many software platforms to run all of your marketing. This can house all of that under one roof. So it's obviously tracking your leads and customers' interests and all those sales deals, and reporting it can do everything. But one of the key things that I find is very important in today's day and age, and we're at this level now that the level of intelligence of understanding your customer is key. You know, we can understand what marketing channel they come from. You know, was it a social media post or via SEO? You know, what sort of brand touch points are they connecting with? What stage are they in the buying cycle? Are they just, you know, talking about that top of funnel? Are they just interested, or are they actually ready to buy? You know, all of that interactions is tracking all the time, 24/7. And that way you get to understand, you know, what products and services they're looking for, what stage of the buying cycle that they're looking for, and ultimately building a funnelized system so you've got clear transparency and really much far greater intelligence of where they're at in the buying cycle. Because if you're doing all those activities, as I said, you're doing the outreach cold calls with Ashley, you're doing direct sales with Ben, you're doing some websites and lead generation with Kate, and obviously I would help with some automations within that. Again, all of that is feeding into your CRM and is all trackable at every stage of the game. So 24/7, it never sleeps. So I guess in summary, with your CRMs, you know, if you haven't got one, get one, but it's there to work for your business. It's outside of your normal day-to-day accounting software that's tracking your finances. This is tracking your sales and marketing activities. Everything that you do goes in there, so that way you don't have to worry about not knowing. One of the big things is we find from a marketing question is I always ask, how much website traffic are you getting? Or I don't know. Or how much how is your social media performing? I don't know. Well, this removes that question, because it'll track everything: email, social media, SEO, website traffic, website conversion. This is all really, really good intelligence for running smart marketing, as well as providing a real-time report. So that way, whether you're a sales manager or a marketing manager or even the general manager, you can just dive in straight away and get a real-time report of how your customers are tracking, how your sales are tracking, and even how your marketing's tracking. So if you're spending X amount via marketing, it'll tell you how much your ROI is and how much your lead generation is working all in that background for you. Such important data for running a really smart business. And lastly, as I pointed out before, it's just tracking your customer. Are they a tire kicker, or are they looking to they're really interested in your brand, or are they looking to actually physically buy now, or potentially they might have even bought something, but they're looking to buy more. We can help with upsells, cross sells, all that sort of stuff. So we can be much more smarter, make quicker and better decisions on the fly, and just work a real efficient tight ship in terms of all of your sales and marketing activities. But I guess there's a question, and because in today's day and age, as Ben had pointed out, and even Kate pointed out, there's all these bright, shiny things, and there's these distractions that happen all the time. And a lot of the times, running a business, if you are a business owner, we are time poor. So what happens if we don't have the time, we don't have the team, we don't have the energy, all those other things that are happening on and trying to run a family at the same time? What do you do? I've got this CRM, my marketing's everywhere, my sales everywhere. I've got deals. I don't know what deals stages they're at. I've got a sales team scrambling to not knowing who to follow up and who to call. Well, this is where automation comes in to save the day. But I guess to really break this down to its nuance of what automation actually does, it's literally a conveyor belt for your business. So your leads, customers that are tracking on the far left are all feeding through, and you can think of all these little conveyor belts and trolleys and little robots happening in the background to then push them through into the sales at the end of the day. So to break that down further, what it actually does. So the leads obviously go in. You can start to automatically, the CRM will profile that customer, where it came from, understanding its needs and wants and what sort of products it's looking for. It can understand if this is a cold lead or a warm lead or a hot lead. Again, you're not having to manually do this. This is doing it all for you. Just because even with AI now, it can be ultra smart in terms of where that lead journey is happening. Even looking at what products and services they're determining to buy. They come to your website and you've got a whole series of different products. It'll notify or flag even sometimes your sales team that, hey, Ben's just been on my website and he's interested looking at this particular product. He's come back various times looking at all the spec sheets and different. I think you should give Ben a call because he is interested. All that sort of stuff. You're really starting to understand the buyer's journey. And again, we can notify. So if someone is a hot lead, rather than just sort of letting it sit there, the system will notify your sales team. So rather than the sales team sitting around not knowing where their leads are at or where the leads are coming from, the CRM will be ultra smart and notify the right salesperson to say, hey, you have got a hot lead, give this person a call or close this deal. And it can send automatic marketing or sales material. So if there is a particular product or service that's interesting, oh, thanks, Ben. Here's our brochure on the X, or here's some more information on Y that you're looking at our particular products. Really nurture that customer at the same time, as well as pushing them through the sales cycle. And obviously creating deal stages for your sales team. All of this is important. And plus, if it does strike that there is a hot lead ready to go, it can even be even more smarter by even setting appointments automatically for that right prospect to say, yeah, this person's the right lead. Would you like to book a meeting with our salesperson? Yes, I would. Bang. And that whole process has basically all done via those little robots or conveyor belts happening in the system. So you're pushing them through all the time. So lastly, I'm just going to talk about the top 5 reasons why automations, businesses would do this. Well, first and foremost is it helps with speed to response. I come across this so many times when I ask customers, how many lead conversions do you get through, and they don't know. Or, well, the lead came in, but I don't know where it went. It's in my website somewhere. So the more times we can jump on that lead within the first 5 minutes, our conversion opportunity nearly hits 400%. Because if we don't, it just keeps dropping and dropping and dropping. And Ben will attest to this, that the sooner we can jump on that lead inquiry, the much greater chance of us converting it. And it ultimately means that we can get more leads at a much more quicker pace. It also helps with your teams, your tasks, and even efficiency. But even if you're a one-man band business, it can make you look like 10 people, because it's all this automations and activities doing all that stuff for you in the background, that you don't have to hire more staff, and you can program it to do a lot of this grunt work for you. I mean, how much time would just save in your day if you're not having to chase leads, send follow-up inquiries, and even qualifying questions, even if you don't even know if they're actually qualified or not. All that manual work, get it off your plate. And one area we can help your marketing and sales is basically it can automate all these ways of basically 12 timing your business and sales and marketing opportunities, because you can do automations for prospecting, qualifying, lead nurturing, automating those appointments or even events as well, webinars, downloads, pipelines, buyer stages, deal stage. All this stuff can be automated, so it can just take it off your plate, so it frees up time for you to actually focus on the tasks, or more sales, or actually delivering more better projects, and letting all this do the work for you in the background. It can even, because it's I guess a technological based system, it can help systemize and streamline everything. So that way it can gather and good fit leads, even qualify. AI is being brought into the equation much more now by actually using chatbots or even voice. There's voice calling now that sounds so much like a human, not to take away from Ashley's work, because her work is brilliant. But if a lead comes in, we can get AI to actually respond and just at least ask some pre-qualifying questions, and then move them on to the funnel stage if that's your type of service. Obviously, it can help class them by the needs or solution or timing, sends other triggers, as I said, upsell, cross-sells, books appointments, and nurtures them through that entire process. And if you're an IT business or a software or SaaS business, it can even help with onboarding as well, all automated. The process of sometimes removing human from the equation is far more efficient. And if you've got a really strong marketing, either inbound or outbound campaigns going on, all of this can be automated as well, because it continually promotes your brand 24/7. You're communicating to the right audience, not communicating to everyone. You can be so highly targeted, it's not funny. Obviously, you can engage with your database and follow up with lead capture. So what that means is, so a lead comes in and say, for instance, well, yeah, I'm sort of interested, but maybe follow me up in 6 months' time. Well, rather than me having to manually remember that, it's all automated. That trigger goes out to say, hey, Craig, you got in touch with us, 4 or 5 months ago. Are you still thinking of X, Y, Z? Oh, yes, I am. Oh, we'll set an appointment. We'll have a chat. Again, all automated. And eventually it can turn your customers into repeat business. So again, to summarize all of that, is what that looks like is all your activity and your sales and marketing activity all feeding into the CRM with automation all built in. It's profiling, it's building a customer journey, it's sending out the right triggers, it's building a personalized journey to then ultimately bring them back. So once they do become a customer, how do we bring them back as well? Just keep them on that recurring treadmill. I mean, how good would that be from a business standpoint? But I do want to really emphasize, though, that bots and automation will never replace humans. We're not fully taking that out of the entire equation, because humans are there, and Ben, and I'm sure Ashley will attest to this as well. People buy from people. So you want the human to come in to still build rapport, build trust, build that relationship. But outside of those touch points and reminders and triggers and other follow-up conversations, all that can be automated, but we only bring the human in for for one-to-one conversations or even Zoom calls or all that sort of stuff when required to help move them along the buying cycle. So lastly, I guess to finish up, to summarize all of this, why a business would use automation? Well, again, just removing when you don't have the time and you've got too much manual processes going on, this is where automation fits that bill straight away, because a lot of those tasks and those tedious tasks, if you're having to fill out, retype every single email, when a lead comes in or respond to them manually, it can take a lot of that off your plate straight away. Again, if you don't have the team or the expertise, again, it all can be streamlined and all can be developed as a system. So a system for inbound leads, a system for follow-ups, a system for lead nurturing, a system from general inquiries, all of that can be programmed into your business to be handling for you 24/7. It's also designed for businesses that want more and want to do more. So again, it doesn't matter if you're a one-man person or a much bigger team, it's designed to scale. It can do so much more. So you don't have to manually, or sorry, you don't have to hire more people to do a lot of the work. It can basically be these little bots and automations doing the work for you. And ultimately, it's designed to work smarter, not harder. Everybody wants that. So even if you're thinking about automation, there's even little ways of just enhancing your sales inquiries to your marketing outreach, to just little things that will just make your world so much more easier and faster, but also give a great experience for the customer as well. So lastly, just to finish off, is where I'm offering a free sales pipeline assessment. We want to make sure that that is flowing consistently and there's no stops, there's no leaks. Your marketing activities flowing all the way into sales correctly, and having an automated system that's going to ultimately self-generate and work in the background for you. So Ira's going to put the link in the chat box, but you just click on that page, register your details, you will get a full detailed report of how that funnel and flow process is working for you. So that's it from me. I'll hand it back to David, but I really appreciate everyone sticking to the end. It's been a great session, and we'll chat soon.
Craig, thanks so much. You just confirmed what I think is the most critical thing, and that's the idea of systemizing or automating some of the business. Because even if people just start with a basic CRM, they're increasing value of their business immediately. And I think they think, wow, this is very complicated. It's going to take a lot of time to set up. The answer is start. And I think when you talk to someone like Craig, he's going to say, start by just capturing your information in one spot. Because then when you do have lead gen, and if you're using cold calling, all the information goes into the CRM. If you do have prospects that hit your website, you don't lose them. You plug all the holes in the funnel. So I think it's super important that people think about the 4 elements we've talked about today. I'm going to put a little quote up because I know what happens at this point in time. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. You have new information from today. What I'd like you to do is, into the chat box, I'd like you to identify what has been the top 2 or 3 takeaways from today's presentation. We've had 4 very dynamic presentations, very different. What are the key things in your notes? What are the highlights? What are the things that have resonated with you about today's session? What are the action items that you need to take? Let's get them into the chat box so we can have a bit of a discussion. We've got a little bit of time for Q&A. If anyone's got a question, now is your time to ask question of any of the presenters. While we're doing that, I'll just do a quick commercial break because we've been talking a lot today. We've been talking a lot about this thing called the cash flow engine, and how you can actually systemize, automate, and structure your sales process right from lead gen through to sale. The reason you want to do that as a business is you need to create this thing called an engine. It needs to be a system. It needs to be a process that you can bring your team into. For me, too often, people are saying, I just need to find the right people. I just need to find the right people. My suggestion is, unless you know what you want people to do, then you are going to be taking a big risk with employing people. And people say, I've employed a salesperson, it didn't work out so well. Did they have a system to follow? Oh, I thought they knew what they were talking about. They're a salesperson. Give them scripts, give them process, give them a CRM, record every call, monitor what they're doing, make sure that you have structure around your team. This is how you secure building a self-managed team. This is how you get leverage within your business. And I just wanted to remind people, going back to this recruitment thing, while we're getting these ideas, there's a couple coming in. What have been your top 3 takeaways from today's session into the chat box? I want to talk about this idea of recruitment a little bit more. We realized very early in our piece as a coaching firm that the most critical element and the best kept secret of successful businesses is finding and keeping the right people. That's it. The real problem is people are terrified about recruiting. They go, you know, what happens if I pick the wrong person? What happens if they rip me off? What happens if they copy my idea? If you hire the wrong person, and this is statistics, a bad hiring decision in your business will cost you 30 to 150% of someone's wage. So if you think about that, that means that you employ a person for 3 months and they don't work out, and you have to get rid of them or replace them. You have to fix the damage they created. It's going to cost you somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000. For most small businesses, this will send them over the edge. So don't recruit unless you know what you're looking for. These are the problems, right? You're struggling to find the right people. You're time poor and you don't have time to implement the things we've talked about. You're frustrated by bad hires. You know it's a tough market out there and there's not many good candidates, or you're losing your good employees to your competitors. You don't need to do that. This is about developing an employment system. Everything we talked about today for acquiring clients is exactly the same for acquiring team members. Just a heads up for people. They don't realize I need to generate leads to acquire team members. I need to build relationships and I need to pick on good decisions. This event that we're running, it's only for clients. As I mentioned before, we're opening up just to see if anyone needs the value. It's the 90-day high retention hiring plan. If you're thinking about recruiting at this point in time in your business, or if you're failing at recruiting, if you want to come to this event, which is with our clients, I'm happy for you to come along. It's going to cost you $97, but if you get to the end and say that wasn't useful, I'm going to refund you, because I don't believe it's not worth the money. I just don't want people showing up just because it's free, right? If you think building your team is important, this is going to give you the answers that you want. So I'm going to stop right there. I want to see what people have got in the chat, because I think today's been so important. If there's any questions from anyone on the call, feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question of any of the team member of the team. If we can put Ira, if we can just spotlight the presenters as well, please. I'm going to read some of these because some of these are very cool. First one, CRM automation. I have a CRM with the ability to make, but I'm not doing Karen. Awesome. You now realize how powerful the tool you have in front of you. Cold calling is cool. Design is very important. So like a doctor, CRM and automation save time and money. When you realize the power of implementing the things we've talked about today, you will realize that you've under-invested not only time, but money into something that is the most powerful element in building your business, which is generating leads consistently. The value of engaging the right specialist resources to ensure that you are giving your business every chance of success. Don't be scared of being sold to. Be prepared to say no if something doesn't resonate with you. Talk to people. If your fear of being sold to is overshadowing your desire to improve your business, you're stalemated. There's an old saying, people say, no one does it as well as I do. That's not true. That's just an affirmation that holds people in isolation. Right? The truth is, if no one does it as well as you do, you'll never employ anybody. Right? So you've got to start saying there are better people than me out there. And this is the problem with self-employment. When we're small and we sell ourselves, no one does it as well as we do. But then when it comes to employment, you say, well, how can I find someone better? So just be thinking about that as well. The goodbye email seems to work. We've got some good, yeah, that's a great one. What else? Spend 3 points. Treat leads as gold. Yes. Sell like a doctor. I love that. I don't like calling people salespeople. I like to call them customer service. You're helping people buy. You're not selling. And you can't help people buy unless you understand their problems. Brilliant. And follow up like a friend. Yes. Awesome. A couple of thank yous to the presenters. It doesn't look like we have any questions. So what I'm going to do at this point in time is I'm going to suggest that if we can get Ira to drop the links in for all 4 presenters again, please. You've also got access to the event that we're running in 2 weeks' time if you are thinking about recruiting right now, if your recruiting's failing. I'm going to suggest pick at least 2 of the 4 that you feel you resonate with, and get them to challenge your current process. Get them to spend 15 whole minutes with you and have a look at what you're currently doing and give you some pointers. If what they show you makes sense, then you can continue the conversation. But don't shut the door and say, I don't want to be sold to, I'm too busy. Don't be naive, right? If your pipeline is not producing enough sales for your business right now, there's a hole somewhere in it. It could be all of the things we talked about today. It could be just one. My suggestion is do not leave the scene of this presentation without booking something. Because often we get to the end, that was a great presentation. I've got lots of good notes. I'll look at them later. No, you won't. No, you won't. I know people too well. If you don't act immediately on what you learned today, it could have been just a great presentation with some great information. If you have specific issues that need addressing, start the process today. Either make an action item to yourself to look at these things or book a time with one of our presenters. Is there anything that any of the presenters would like to add at this point in time? Sounding silent. That's great.
But a lot.
That's
Just
great.
thank you for being an amazing audience. Everyone was very interactive and looks like they've got a lot of value out of it. Everyone's presentations was fantastic. So
Thanks,
Look, I'll sum it up
everybody.
in one way, right? We've done this presentation a couple of times, and we talk about, perfecting your pipeline. And a lot of people don't give this the time and the attention and the investment that it requires. But I want you to imagine that if you could get clients on a consistent basis every single day that you're in business, qualified, ready to buy and pay, what difference would that make to your business in 2025? So let's not rely on just finding a lead. Let's look at how do we build a system to generate leads on a daily basis. And everything we've talked about today will do that for you if you invest the time. So if you can do just one thing out of today, it's an action plan. If you can do two things today, it's book some time with some of these guys to make sure that they give you some guidance and direction in the right way. Other than that, I really do. Will there be a recording of the event? Phil asked, and the answer has already been answered. Yes, there's definitely a recording. There'll also be a way that you can transcribe it into AI and it will do all the work for you. No, just kidding. That's coming in the future. It's not far away, right? But I'm not going to suggest AI replaces humans. Craig said it really well. He said, AI will optimize so that the humans will be doing the part that humans need to do. I remember there was a guy years ago, Tom Hopkins, who was a sales trainer, and he said, the best use of a salesman's time is sitting belly to belly with someone who wants to buy. Everything else is not the best use of their time. And all we've done today is reinforce this idea. If you have salespeople, make sure they're talking to prospects that have problems or have needs, not cold calling, not just following up on telephone. Use the automation where you can. Get the prospects ready to buy in front of the salespeople and your sales will improve. Put them in front of cold prospects and you're using them for suboptimal activities. So really think about sales pipeline. If you have any questions around today that come up after the event, we are going to send out a follow-up email. So you can book with the different presenters. We are going to be looking for feedback, as Kate mentioned. So if you get the Google review link, please review this presentation. Let other people know what you got out of it. Because I don't know if we're going to run this presentation again in the future, but if people would like us to and they put demand on us, we will. I do think it is important to look at this as holistic, not just a single dimension. There is a pipeline, there is stages in it, and they need to be all attended to. And this requires you as a business owner to spend the time building. So I'm hoping you got some great value from today. You've met some great people. We're going to give you 5 minutes extra because we're going to finish a little early. And thank you very much for your time and attendance. Let's give these presenters a great round of applause. Please unmute your mics and say thanks to the presenters.
Well done, guys. Awesome
Yeah, well
work.
done. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks
Very
again
much.
to the presenters for doing an awesome job. And thank you for your attendance.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.